All right, well, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here on our blab tonight. This blab was initially called the LDSM Secrets, which just stood for the Love Differently, Stay Married Secrets. There are 5 secrets in this book. This is the 8th book that I authored, and this is not a book promotion. This is just simply to share this is where these 5 secrets came from that we have been talking about every single day this week, Monday through Friday. So this is our 3rd. We still have 2 more to go. My name is Kelly Frazier, and I'm an author, speaker, and a coach, and I help people that have had divorce situations in their past. For instance, my husband and I, we had 11 divorces in our family that affected us. And that was pretty devastating as you grow up and both sets of parents divorce, and then your siblings start to divorce, and then your friends all start to divorce, and you're thinking to yourself, are we going to survive? Right? So that's why this blab has been established. That's why that book came about. It was all through the inspiration of really God for me. It came through that kind of an inspiration, and it's just been a powerful resource and powerful tool for people who want to know how to love differently than the unhealthy examples that they've had in their upbringing. So thank you so much for joining us here tonight. I am thrilled to have some special guests with me tonight. We are still waiting on 2 more people to join us, so hopefully they can make that happen, and if not, then we'll have to have them again on later in the week. So again, I would just want to mention to you, we've had 2 other blabcasts regarding the Love Differently, Stay Married Secrets, which is how to create unity in your marriage. And if you have missed video 1 and 2, then feel free to go to dayoflove.org/blabs, and you can find it there. That's where all the replays are. So I want to introduce Sue Painter, who has just been generous and gracious enough to be a co-host with me tonight. It's awesome, Sue, that you're here, because it's a little more challenging to have a blab when you're just talking to yourself.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so I really
like about blab is that you can talk with, three or 4 other people, and that makes it kind of interesting and a lot more fun.
Yeah, oh, totally. Yeah. So could you please tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Sue Painter, and I am a business coach who works in that space of your business as a spiritual practice. And so I kind of combine spirituality and work together, because I know that there's not really a boundary between work and spirit when you're an entrepreneur. How you are is how you bring forth your work into the world. The name of my business is The Confident Marketer. I've been doing this work for 11 years now. And before that, I'm a serial entrepreneur. Before that, I owned a big brick and mortar business. So I coach people all over the world. I have clients in, I think, 13 countries now. I'm a published author, and I love encouraging people to kind of step out of the box and do what they've been dreaming of.
Very nice. And as we heard earlier, you are in Florida at the moment, experiencing 80-degree weather.
I am.
Not jealous or anything. And really and truly, I cannot complain. I mean, seriously, I think our weather today was like in the 60s, maybe. I don't know. But it's been dreary, drizzly, rainy. So, that doesn't help. Sunshine always helps everybody. So how many years, Sue, have you been married?
Coming up January 2nd will be my 45th anniversary.
45 years. Oh my goodness. It makes me want to do this number.
I was married at age 2.
I know, right?
I'm going to have to start like taking 10 or 15 years off of that.
Seriously though, I mean, and I'm not saying this to flatter you, but you certainly don't look like you are someone who's been married for that long. Seriously. I really just can't even believe sometimes that just between 2 people that you can actually be married for, well, you can have the wisdom of 77 years on the same phone call. Okay. So that's just an indicator of what kind of experiences, what kind of wisdom or insights you might get from listening to this blab tonight, because that is a lot of years and a lot of experience. So I'm really, I'm excited for you, the listener. I'm excited for anyone who comes in and joins us who wants to ask questions, because here's the truth. Until you do start to ask questions, and really good questions, you're not going to have answers. Okay, so just really dig deep when you're listening tonight and ask yourself questions and ask us questions. That's why we're here. That's why we are doing this blab. Now, somebody asked me today, where did the name blab come from? I honestly don't know, but you know what it's like? It's like Google, blog, I mean, all these really interesting, unique words. But if you think about blabbing and being a blabber, that makes a lot of sense to me. But it is kind of an interesting name. And I actually think that, and I've been told this, that it turns people off. Well, I don't know, but I can understand why it would. So like I said before, we are still waiting for 2 more people to come in, but we're going to go ahead and get started. And hopefully they will be able to make it in. If not, we will try this again with them either tomorrow or Friday. Hopefully they've got the time. So Sue, I'm going to start with a few true and false questions, okay? I'm going to really put you on the spot here. Not that you have to get the answers right. That's not what this is about. I'm actually hoping that the people who are listening can also answer. And if you guys want to write true and false there down along the side, you're welcome to do that. So true or false? Successful, oh, excuse me, I should probably tell you that Dr. Charles and Elizabeth Schmidt interviewed thousands of couples with a successful marriage, and they asked them these questions. And this is where these true or false questions came from.
Okay.
Okay, so true or false, successful couples help their spouse overcome weaknesses by pointing out the things that they need to improve.
False.
True, it's false. You are correct. Why is it false?
Well, because in a relationship, whether it's a work relationship or a personal relationship, the way to move forward is not by pointing out the error of someone else's way, and also because, you know, that sits in judgment with another person. So, you know, that saying about cast the beam out of your own eye before you look at the eye through the eyes of another person, and that's true. So nobody likes to be told what they're doing wrong, and it tends to make the other party defensive and anxious.
Excellent. Go teach, Sue. Yes. All right. So true or false? Successful couples would ignore their spouse's large weight gain because they understand that general appearance is not an important part of the relationship. True or false?
Probably false. I mean, that's kind of a two-sided question. First of all, any kind of weight gain or weight loss could indicate that there's something else physically or emotionally going on that the spouse would be interested in. And while it is true that, you know, you are in a relationship with someone, whether it's personal or business, because of the quality of the relationship and who that person's essence is, then still anything that is a change in them physically or mentally is something that you would notice because you are loving them and you are noticing things that are different and changing. And it could be an indicator of something wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Very good. Very good. Okay, so true or false, the successful couple focuses on cooking healthy meals together as a sensual and fun activity. True or false?
I think it depends on the couple. I don't think there's a true and false answer to that, honestly. I mean, in our family, I hardly ever cook. My husband does most of the cooking. When we do, we enjoy cooking together sometimes, but my schedule often doesn't allow it, and nor that's really not what I'm good at. So their answer would probably be true. They should cook healthy food together, but I really do think that depends on the couple. Not all couples are gonna cook together or even eat the same things.
Yeah, I concur. Very, very, very true. I agree with you 100%. You have a husband who cooks for you. That is so awesome. I would love to know, truly, I've thought about this so many times. I would love to know how many husbands are now cooking dinners for their spouses or their families. I suspect it's probably quite a few because the women work outside of the home, especially I think in entrepreneurial families where the woman is running a business and the husband may come home and is able to cook and spend more time doing that so that the wife can, spend more time with the family after dinner.
I think too, it is, what people naturally are interested in or good at. My husband is interested in cooking more than I'm interested in cooking. I wouldn't care if I ever entered a grocery store again the rest of my life, honestly.
Same here.
But I cooked for a number of years, and after about a quarter of a century of it, I was kind of like, it's your turn. I don't want to think anymore about what to have for dinner. You do it for a while. So,
right. No, I agree. I agree 100%. I do think, though, that they said that when couples cook together, that it is sensual and fun. I actually have to agree with that. My husband, and I'm so grateful for this, but tonight at the dinner table, he said that he was going to take the next 5 days off and he would cook every meal every day while he was off. And my chin hit the floor and I'm like, thank you, God, because seriously, it is not my favorite thing to do. Now, people say all the time that I'm a really good cook, so it doesn't have anything to do with my lackluster for cooking. It just simply, we've been married for 33 years. After 30 some odd years of cooking all the time, you just get tired of it. I get tired of it, So I'm very, very grateful for that. Well, thank you for answering those questions. And I may even drag up some more before the end of this tonight, but I actually want to get into our topic for tonight. We have different topics every single time that we meet this week, Monday through Friday. And the 5 secrets that I had mentioned earlier from the Love Differently, Stay Married book, and which, by the way, is on Amazon or Barnes & Noble if you're interested, that is just such a powerful way to go through life, is to have these 5, and we call them secrets, but really they're principles. They're principles that you can find in the Bible. They're principles that you can find within you if you know what they are and just pull them out. And that's what I'm really good at as far as being a coach or, speaking to people. It's just being able to pull these principles out. Now, we are on principle number 3, or secret number 3. And that is to focus on the victories. Focusing on the victories in your marriage or in your relationship. I mean, maybe a lot of you are engaged who are watching, and I just think that this is probably one of the greatest things that you can do for your future and for your marriage currently, is to be able to focus on the victories in your marriage or in your own personal life. Sue, I'm going to ask you, how do you and your husband, what is your husband's name?
Bill.
Bill. Okay, so how do you and Bill focus on some of the victories in your relationship? Would you mind sharing?
I think we have always been the kind of people who has said to each other, we're not sure how we're going to get there, but we'll figure it out. And so after we've made whatever change it is, and we've made lots of changes in all the years that we've been together and where we've located, the work we do, all kinds of different things. We're always kind of evaluating what went right and what went wrong and how we can make it better the next time. I think it's something that we both just naturally bring to the table. It's kind of in our DNA. I don't think everybody is that way. I think some people are evaluative, but they're evaluative and they look only at the pieces that went right. Other people are evaluative and they only look at the pieces that went wrong. And we kind of say, well, this worked and this didn't. And we always do. We're very good supporters of each other in terms of encouraging each other. And where that came, a good example of that for us is that about 3 years ago, I had a very, very serious injury to my leg and was told that I probably would never get out of a wheelchair. And so it's been 3 years of really hard work for me to be able to be mobile again and walk unassisted. And Bill was really the encourager and the person who really helped me along the way, because for a long time I couldn't stand up. I mean, I couldn't do anything without him. So we always looked at, while I would get down about the pain or about the therapy or whatever I was doing, he was always saying, but you don't really realize that you stood up for 3 whole minutes and it's been 6 months since you've gotten out of a wheelchair. So like those little encouragements, wow. I think I have always appreciated that from him, and we really try hard to do that for each other, because sometimes you have to celebrate the tiny things before you get the bigger win.
Oh, absolutely. Oh my goodness, yeah. And a lot of people do tend to focus on the negative side of it, and I call it healthy and unhealthy. I don't necessarily say good, bad, right, wrong. That is just me. It's just how I do life. And so I really feel that we're trained to look at the unhealthy most of the time than what we are at the healthy. And I say that in love and appreciation for all of us who've had parents. All of our parents did the best they could with what they were given at the time. And if they have not done what you're doing right now, which is sitting here and listening to the wisdom, the insight, the applications in life that people who have been married for a collective 70 some odd years, maybe they didn't have the advantage of having Blab back then where they could sit and have these discussions. But I know that I was raised to really seriously focus on the unhealthy things of life, whether it was my appearance, whether it was someone else's appearance or the way they behaved or acted, if it was television programs. I mean, no matter what it was, we were literally trained to focus on the unhealthy. So when you try to reverse all of that, sometimes you can get stuck. You can really get stuck in that unhealthy, the lack mentality. And that is a huge one. And I want to address that tonight because I believe with all my heart that it wasn't until I was able to get out of the lack mentality that I was able to change things in my life. And what that means is you focus on things that you do not have. There's not enough money, not enough time, not enough people around you, not enough mail, not enough clothes, not enough groceries. I mean, there's so many things that you can focus on in the unhealthy way. Now, you say to yourself, okay, so let's just say that I don't have enough groceries in my refrigerator. So if I open my refrigerator's empty, how can I possibly look at that as a positive, healthy way? Well, in truth, unless you know how to problem solve, find the resources that you need, even go to it in prayer, if you're a spiritual person, be able to reach out and ask for help, then you're not going to know how to focus on the healthy or positive side. You are only going to focus on what is not there. But people who can switch all of that can actually get to that place inside of them where they believe that they can problem solve their way through it, because you can problem solve your way through most anything. And, having the healthy abundance, and I use that term in a way that is for clarity's sake, okay? In abundance, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have an entirely filled refrigerator there that you're supposed to just envision and there it is and it shows up. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about having the gratitude for the abundance that you can expect as you begin to problem solve, reach out for help, and ask. Okay, so I think these are really, really important factors to focusing on the victories of your life. So can you think of a couple of times in your marriage where the mentality of lack was just kind of sucking you guys dry and that you were able to turn it around?
I'll have to think about that for a moment, but okay. as I do think about that, I just wanted to, I agree with what you just said wholeheartedly, and I just want to make the point that there are many of us who grew up in our culture at such a time that perfectionism was the ruling thing that we were taught in our lives. And when you are stuck in perfectionism, you tend to pick out all of the things that are not perfect and all of the things that are wrong. So, living life means living, life is an experiment and it's an adventure, and it's certainly not perfection. So if you look at all the things that are not perfect in your life, and you wait for things to be perfect before you move ahead with what you want to do in life, then you're never going to do anything.
Yeah.
So, and if you look at things in your relationship to be absolutely perfect, then you're never, ever going to be happy in your relationship, because no relationship is ever going to be totally perfect. So I just wanted to make that point, because I think when you were talking about having been taught to focus on the lack and what is not right, that is a sign of somebody who is stuck in perfectionism, and they're pointing out all the things that don't meet up to their perfect standard. So, and that makes you miserable, and not only that, it makes everyone around you miserable as well. So it's just not the way to go in life. And to answer your question, I was thinking as I was talking, and I do remember once, when my husband was active duty in the Air Force for a short period of time after we got out of grad school, he owed the Air Force a couple of years because they paid for his MBA. And so we got transferred up to Great Falls, Montana, which was like going to the outer reaches of the earth to us because we're Southerners and it's cold up there and we didn't much like it. And then we had an opportunity to leave there after about 9 months, and we did. But it was right when the country was really in a kind of a slump, an economic slump, and jobs were hard to come by. So we kind of got a little down that we didn't have jobs to jump to automatically. And we ended up turning that around by just saying, well, we don't have jobs and we probably won't have this kind of freedom in our lives for a long time to come. So we jumped in the car with our dog and we just we just went around the country. And
that's a great example right there.
We ended up in North Carolina where actually we did get jobs. So,
wow.
You know, we kind of tried to make something an adventure out of, because we couldn't sit around and stare at each other every day and say, oh, we don't have jobs, what are we going to do? So we figured we'll just go travel until we find what we like, where we like, and where we want to be. So that's maybe an example. I don't know if that's exactly what you're talking about, but that's what came to mind.
That's a great example because you guys, like you said, you could have just stayed stuck in, we don't have jobs for us. You know, how on earth are we going to make a living? But instead of doing that, you chose to do something that most people would never do. But it was a part of problem solving. You know, you could have just stayed stuck in the problem. You know, it's really funny. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me just 1 second because Pastor Clint is trying to get in again. All right. Go ahead. If you could, Clint, just go ahead and click on the button just right below us here. I don't know if you can see that. It's a square box and it says, I think it says join the blab on it. If you can just click on that, it should start to show me that you were trying to get in and then I can just accept you. That would be really, really helpful. Anyhow, I'm going to keep talking until I see that come up. It seems like he keeps coming and going, and I'm not sure why, but I see him fall off. Maybe they're having some internet issues on their end. Yeah, anyhow, so yeah, I mean, I love the fact that, and I'm ruthless. I am ruthless. I'm just going to throw it out there about perfectionism. I can't stand perfectionism. I believe with all my heart that perfectionism comes from a space inside of us where we feel like we cannot make mistakes. And when you feel like you cannot make mistakes, you tend to make everyone else around you feel like they can't make any mistakes either. And that's where people start to say, don't be so hard on yourself. Well, you're hard on yourself. Well, guess what? If you're hard on yourself, you're going to be hard on other people too. And I know we all get in those modes sometimes. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, you know, it drives me nuts. It really does. I try not to let it drive me nuts. But I really believe that perfectionism is a state where you are too afraid to make mistakes because, you know, for whatever reason you were rejected or something, you know, occurred in your life. But what I love is when you turn perfectionism around and you say, okay, this isn't perfect. Kind of like tonight. Tonight was a great example. Tonight was not perfect. I had Pastor Clint and Brenda, his wife, you know, jumping on board with me here tonight. I had completely neglected to get back to Sue, who, you know, so generously said she was going to come on board. I mean, this was so not perfect tonight. But I decided to jump in and do it anyhow, even though we don't have part of our guests, and then we have a surprise, a beautiful surprise guest that did come on. So you understand what I'm saying? It may not seem like that's too professional, and that's perfectly fine. If you're looking for professional and that's what you want, you go after professional. I am not your gal, okay? But if you're looking for somebody who will have total integrity with you and tell you in direct ways that, look, this is what is happening here, then talk to me. Because I believe with all my heart that if we can get past the perfectionism, then we can see the victories in our marriage. And one of the reasons why I feel like I struggle with the opposite of not wanting to be the perfectionist is because I was that for so long. And talk about a recovering perfectionist. Yeah, I mean, I think probably everybody could consider that if they recognize that they have that. What do we call it? A disorder, perfectionism disorder.
The character for sure. Yeah, and it can really be a devastating one. And So, but I agree with you. I think that people who are stuck in perfectionism, first of all, have been trained wrong often. But second of all, they are often fearful of making mistakes. And if you are not making a good, big mistake every now and then you're not growing. I tell my clients when I work with them, I want you to, by the end of our time together, have made one or two really, really bad mistakes, because that shows me you're pushing and you're growing and you're going to get around any stuck place in your business. If you're afraid to decide, then you're stuck in perfectionism because you're afraid to make a mistake. And that's a killer. It will kill your business. It will kill your relationships.
Totally. I hope you heard what Sue just said, because it is a killer. It will kill your business and it will kill your relationships. I'm going to share something with you guys, and this is just a short story. And at first, as I tell you the story, you're going to feel like the energy level's going down, just because it is one of those stories. But I will bring it back up. I promise you that. So here's what happened. In 2007, I had an 18-year-old nephew, and he died in a drowning accident. His mom was my little sister, and a few months later, she too died of cancer. I traveled between where I was living in Michigan to where they lived in Vermont, and going back and forth a few times to help the family through grieving, help with the funerals, help taking care of her through her cancer. And then when I got back home, my husband and my daughter were there, and she was a preteen at the time, and he was taking care of her. He was going to work, and I had started a company a year and a half prior to that was an investing company, and it was doing extremely well, being very successful. But when I left it, it all started to fall apart. And he was trying so hard to keep everything together that when I got back home, he was like, "That's it, I'm done. I'm done." I'm like, "Done? What do you mean done?" And unfortunately, in his particular case, him saying he was done was not unheard of. I mean, that is something that came out very, very often. Like I told, maybe a lot of you had not heard it, but my husband and I had 11 divorce examples in our lives before we even were in our mid-20s. Okay, so we had a lot of unhealthy examples in our relationships. So in my subconscious mind, I'm thinking, okay, fine, divorce, because that's what everybody else did, right? But in my conscious mind, I'm going, wait a minute. We're meant to be together. We love each other. There is no way that I want to divorce. So I asked him, I said, "Okay, honey, what do I need to do? What do I need to do to make it right for you?" And of course, that question alone puts the whole onus on me and negates the onus on his end to try to stick things out and work things out emotionally. But he told me, "I want you to be more compassionate and more sensitive to my needs." Okay? So I actually found a seminar, a weekend seminar, where I could go away and become more compassionate and more sensitive. So when I came back from that weekend, I thought, okay, everything's going to be great. I've learned how to be more compassionate and more sensitive to his needs. And in truth, it really didn't change anything for him. It changed me, but it didn't change anything for him. So that is one misnomer that we do get stuck in our marriages, that we can help change the other person. But if they don't have the mentality of change or becoming healthier or really problem solving their way through things, chances are they're not going to change. Now, as I kept going into that year, I ended up in an accident that caused a traumatic brain injury. So for the next 6 months, I was pretty much laying in bed or laying on the floor, laying in a chair, anywhere that anyone could put me. I had some paralysis down my right side. I had seizures, 9 or 10 seizures a day. I mean, on and on and on. The pain level was excruciating. The doctors wanted to do surgery, but I was cognitive enough, and I said, no, I'm going to get through this one way or the other, but I don't want to have surgery, because they were telling me the chances of, recovery and all that. So what ended up happening, and there's a point to my story, but what ended up happening was 6 months after that injury, I recognized that for me, this is just my personal belief, that God could help heal me. And I did not understand why he wasn't, but I knew that God could heal me. So I just said it. I said, "All right, God, I don't know why you haven't, but I know you can. So this is what it's going to be like when I wake up tomorrow morning. I don't want to wake up." And I wasn't suicidal and I wasn't depressed. I just was exhausted from the pain. And the very next morning, it was the most incredible thing, and I can't really describe it, but in my room there was this glow and this feeling of overwhelming love. And when I use that word, I honestly, it does not describe what I felt that morning. It doesn't even come close. But all I can express to you is that it's the most incredible peace and surrender and joy that I've ever experienced in my entire life. I never had experienced anything like that before. So I kept thinking, okay, this is just my brain, right? I have a traumatic brain injury. This is just my brain. It's just playing tricks on me, you know? So I started to feel my face and my neck and my chest. Am I awake? Is this my brain? What's happening? Am I dreaming? But as I sat there, I became grateful for every single thing, every big thing, every little thing, everything in my life. I started to just be thankful for out loud. And things started to shift and happen right there. And I can't even explain it all. All I can tell you is that in my mind at that point, I started seeing images that I had already become an author. I'd already become a speaker. And I had already seen people and met people from all around the world. Now, at that point in time, in fact, I held a blab today called Introverted Entrepreneurs, because I am very much an introverted person by nature. Well, I kind of grew into that. I don't know if it's all by nature, but so I knew that becoming an author or a speaker was not something even remotely close to what I desired for my life. So as I was seeing these images, I was going, how is any of that supposed to happen? And I even felt a little sarcastic when I said that question. But then I had this response inside that said, trust me. That's what I heard inside of me, okay? And when I heard that, I thought to myself, what other choice do you have right now? I mean, look at what's happening just in these past few minutes, and maybe it was hours that I was sitting there, I really don't know. But just look at that. So it became something so powerful for me that that was back in 2008, June of 2008, and here we are in 2015. I've written 8 books. I speak to people from all around the world. I have a school in Uganda. I mean, there's so many different things that have occurred, but not because it was poof and magical, and not because I demanded perfection of myself that entire way. I learned through that experience that it was not about perfection, but it was about focusing on the victories, every small victory, every large victory, and it was celebrating those things. So what I want to do right now is I want to see if we can talk about the different ways, Sue, if you and I can go back and forth. How are the celebrations, what do the celebrations look like in your household between you and your husband, or maybe, I don't know if you have children, but between you and your family? What do some of the celebrations look like?
Oh, you know, we always celebrate business successes, and we celebrate life stages, birthdays and anniversaries and so forth. Mm-hmm. So I guess just the normal regular stuff. But we also celebrate when we know when we know one of us has been struggling with something. Like for me, it was learning how to stand up and eventually how to walk again. And we had to celebrate really tiny little steps along that way, no pun intended.
Really?
And for Bill, you know, he was not really all that interested in being in the military, but he did it as a way to have his college paid for and also have his MBA paid for. And so it wasn't really his favorite thing to do, and we really had to celebrate, like, okay, the first year's over, the second year's over, and then finally, you know, freedom at the end. So I think you have to think about what are the normal things that most people celebrate, but then what is of interest or really close to the heart of the person you're with, and think about how to celebrate those smaller things that maybe wouldn't be a big deal to anybody else, but they're a big deal to that person.
Absolutely. Okay, so I want you guys to go back to video number 1 if you haven't seen it, because we talked about emotional connections, and Sue just brought up a really good point, that you really have to have those connections to help you celebrate, to help you really move through some of the things that you might have been struggling with, some of those ways that you maybe hadn't quite problem solved through, but then when you found one tiny little solution, it was like, yes. So I'm gonna share a couple ways that my husband and I have celebrated our successes, and sometimes we do it all day long. My husband is huge on doing the fist bump. Sometimes I get so tired of doing the fist bump, but we'll cross over. This sounds so crazy, but we'll cross over like from state to state, and he'll reach over and he'll give me a kiss. Welcome to Virginia, honey. Then next state, oh, well, welcome to New Jersey, honey. You know, and he does this, and it's so funny sometimes, and then other times it's like, honey, I really don't need the kiss just because we crossed over a line. But then there's things like when he creates something, oh my gosh, you guys, you should see the projects that this man can do with wood. The things he makes out of wood, I wish that I had brought some for me. Maybe tomorrow I'll bring some to show you. But the things he's made out of wood are just incredible. And I love to celebrate him when he has these creations that he's made, because they are beautiful. And so, you know, I'll do little things from, sometimes I'll take him to lunch just to celebrate a project he might have been struggling with or working on that he got through. And then here's something else that I think every family, every spouse can do for the other. When you sit at the dinner table or sit at the counter or sit in the living room, wherever you have dinner, make sure that you ask, what are 5 successes that you had today? Make it a habit, because that helps you focus on the healthy, positive, happy times in your life. You are having to reflect on your day, and you're saying, this is what I felt successful in today. Now, a lot of people will go, okay, wait a second, that's a little boastful or self-centered or whatever. You know what, call it what you want. But I'm going to tell you right now, without really understanding what it's like to transfer those thoughts from the unhealthy to the healthy, you're going to stay stuck, because that's how you do it. You keep verbalizing out loud. Hey, and I'm a believer that God created the world. So if God created with his words, I know I can create with my words, and so can you. So the truth of the matter is, being able to express what you've been successful at during the day allows you and helps you to transfer those thoughts from the unhealthy to the healthy. And that's what I want to encourage you to do. That is really the main goal for me tonight. If you don't get anything else out of anything that we've said here tonight, at least get that. Put one practice into your daily routine, whether it's breakfast with your children or dinner time, or maybe even at lunchtime with your spouse. Send them a text. Hey, honey, what are some of your successes from this morning? I mean, seriously, you're going to learn things about your family that you never knew, and it will surprise and delight you most of the time. There will be some of those things that crop up and you go, really? And you have to deal with those too. But seriously, I mean, it's just such a powerful thing to be able to do. So, Sue, can you think of any other last minute things here? Because I want to start closing, but I wanted to give you another opportunity. Is there anything else that you can think of as far as sharing victories?
I don't know about victories, but special times. We always give each other a kiss when we start off on a new travel venture, because travel is a big part of our lives and is a big adventure for us. And then we always celebrate when we've finally made a trip to somewhere that we've wanted to go. Like years ago, we had always wanted to go to Bali, and we finally did that. And we've just toasted that so many times. Oh, you know, remember when we were in Bali? So those little kinds of things. Interestingly enough, my husband is also a woodworker. He turns bowls. And early on in his bowl turning, he submitted a bowl to the British Woodworking Society, and he actually won honorable mention. He'd only been turning a couple of years when he did that. And I remember we went out to dinner. My husband is a real estate agent here in Florida, and I remember when he sold his first home, we went out to a big fancy dinner to celebrate that as well.
Nice. Excellent. Yeah, that's fantastic. I do want to mention that, you know, there are blabs on this this platform that you guys can learn how to change thinking from the unhealthy to the healthy. That you can learn most anything. In fact, some of the greatest blobs have to do with children. Heather, I'm sorry, but I cannot remember her last name. I think, let me just check here. Yeah, I don't remember her last name, but she has a kids program that is just unbelievable. She's taking a lot of the kids that are on YouTube that have really produced amazing things, and she has turned it into a blab for wise kids who have created incredible things or have done incredible things. So anytime, yeah, I mean, it's just fantastic. And then there's another one. Oh, what was the other one that I just heard about today? It's another kids program that kids are holding the blab. They're the ones who have started the blab, and they invite other kids in. So, I mean, these are tremendous ways that we can learn how to really learn how to share the victories in our lives, how to help other people, how to keep them uplifted. And our spouses, guys, they are your champion, and you are their champion. And in order for you to have a successful marriage, you've got to be there for each other to champion one another. And if you're in a situation where your spouse isn't that much of a champion for you, and I was in that situation for many, many, many years, my husband did not know how to champion anybody any more than I did. So once I learned, I was able to share it with him. There was a time, however, where he did not want to learn. He did not want to listen, and he did not want to grow. So is it impossible? No. Does it take time? Yes, it absolutely does. I mean, we may not have the rags to riches story. Well, we kind of do, but we definitely have the unhealthy to the healthy story. I mean, truly, I cannot tell you how much more important that story is than any amount of money that we could ever earn in our lives. Being able to go from, you know, the abused to abused, very badly abused children to healthy, thriving adults and having a beautiful marriage. I cannot tell you how much more valuable that is than any amount of money on the face of this earth. So I just want to thank you, Sue, in particular, for coming on here with me tonight and for helping me kind of, you know, bounce back and forth with these different ideas. That's been a tremendous gift for me, a tremendous gift for the listeners as well. I want to thank every one of you guys. I know that there's quite a few of you on the viewing side, and then there's been a few of you that have popped in. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Thank you for the applause. I see we got a little bit of applause going on. I am sorry to those of you that expected the Cawthorns to show up. Unfortunately, they could not get in tonight, and we're going to figure that one out because it would be tremendous to have those guys in here. They are such a powerful team. If you want to check them out, you can go on Facebook. It's called Keep the Fire Burning. That's what they have founded, and it is such a delight for me to be part of their group and to just learn more about, you know, how to keep the fire burning in your own marriage. So thank you again, everybody. If you don't have any questions, and if we don't have anybody who wants to jump into this open seat here, then we're going to go ahead and end the program for tonight. And don't forget, we have 2 more. So Thursday and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Make sure that you're on here again, and I'll make sure that I get that information out. So go ahead and subscribe. That way you're going to know when that blab starts. Okay? So God bless everybody. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you, Sue. Have a great night. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.